Okay, I wanted to talk about this topic, which is really related to trying to understand energy flow and energy use in complex systems, in systems which are a lot of agents are acting together, and particularly thinking about energy movement, energy acquisition, if you will, in our human society. And in our human society, I haven't studied like economics formally at any point, but I think about this a lot. And how do we, one way, of tracking the movement of energy in our human level system or in our economy is the unit of value transfers goes by many different names, but ultimately most people would know it as just money, currency. So money is like basically you can think of it as like stored potential energy. It's kind of like a battery. Money is like a battery. It's like holding energy, and energy is like, it's a kind of abstract concept. It's just like in systems, it's like the potential to do something. It's oftentimes involves like movement relative to something else. Like if your car is moving relative to the earth and the street, then the car is like kinetic energy going forward. But you could also say that in the car, if you're sitting there stationary, then the earth has kinetic energy relative to you. So it's always like relative to something. And it's interesting to see how or what kind of conditions make it possible for some individual entity to acquire a lot of energy, aka the person becomes really, really rich, requires a lot. They have energy for the money being funneled to them. And so it's just interesting to think about it in terms of energy and like, why is this person or this entity acquiring so much or acquiring at such a high rate? And there's some conditions that I've noticed, and this is going to lead into another topic. There's some conditions that you can observe for why a particular entity might be having all this energy funneled towards them in particular. The one thing I can say, which seems to be really universal, is that their work or what they do, their function in the system, touches a large scale or it somehow impacts a very large scale, essentially in the sense of like a lot of people. Sorry, some people just someone going for a loop. No. These motherfuckers just pulled up. Pause my video talking about energy. See, they went to grab a golf ball, and oh no, it wasn't his ball. These guys are basically just sitting out here, okay, chilling on, I don't know what time of freaking day it is. It's like 8 a.m. Okay, I was up because I was up all night. They were up because they're just out here goofing off. I was up working for 10 hours straight in the cafe. Think about division of labor. Anyway, just joking. That's how tired I am. That's just how tired I am. Anyway, so yeah, the first factor is that your work or something you're doing in the system touches a large scale. Okay, think about like people have hundreds of millions of dollars, like musical artists that are like at the very top of, people have had a influence for a long time. It's like the reason that energy is being funneled towards them ultimately is because their work is doing something which is saving other people energy, is somehow conveying energy to a mass of people. And in the case of music, I like is because it's like music makes people feel good. They like it. They enjoy their life more. That gives them some kind of like a benefit, which gives them some kind of energy, in terms of making them feel better. So that's why the really successful artist can have so much. It's always necessarily tied to scale. something like big tech people or someone like Bill Gates. I don't know, like you can see the impact, especially over time, how far-reaching that influence is of developing computers and all of that stuff. So yeah, I think you get that point from these just a couple examples. One really important point is about what actually enables this. In the modern day, there appears to be, I'm sure there's a lot of evidence that there's like a growing gap, inequality. Again, I don't think about like in terms, I'm thinking specifically in terms of like a financial inequality in the amount of this potential energy that you've stored. And you can also think of it as like a wealth distribution having more skewness, like there's more separation. And what is facilitating this is technology, basically. Specifically, the aspect of technology that allows us to more rapidly reach a large scale in communication or in that influence. Over the past couple of decades, the world has just become increasingly more and more interconnected with the internet, and with traveling by air travel, all of it is like moving towards greater and greater levels of globalization, more interconnectedness I'm not talking about in terms of, there's a different story maybe in terms of how emotionally connected you feel to people around you, but in terms of like your literal ability to communicate with or transfer value to and from, oh my God. Yeah, I did have a train of thought, but no, yeah, so and today in 2020, you're seeing now the rise of the next wave, next revolution, which is what the blockchain will do, and promoting even greater decentralization, even more autonomy to individual entities, more like independence. It's like blockchain, that's a whole different topic, but it's just like, I like to think of it as just it's a fundamentally new type of technology, because like it's the ability to kind of remove the central authority, which is like in charge of creating that conduit of communication. So it's allowing now us it's similar to what happened with, I know this is like an aside, but it's similar to what happened with YouTube, where a couple of decades ago, you could never imagine as a single individual like having your own TV show, your own studio and TV show. And now everyone can have a TV show about whatever they want, and it's accessible to the entire world. So this is kind of what the blockchain is doing now for like finance and other things, is it's like putting the power back into the hands of the people, as I describe it. You don't have to go through that centralized authority anymore. You can send it directly to people immediately. It's fundamentally going to change the structure of the economy eventually, but it's like an emerging technology right now. Anyway, so it's developments like that allow all that energy to be funneled towards one entity. And but I'm just saying that technology is fundamentally what's facilitating that, what's causing the increase in the gap in wage if you think about the whole spectrum of wages, or whatever term you want to use for how do you call your salary or what you're paid, your income rate. So this has all been this all kind of draws towards this concept that I've been kind of obsessing over and developing, or like, it's very simple, but it has to do with this idea of using, or of technology being able to extend one's influence, or like it just you can reach a large scale very quickly. And I don't know what to call it. I have I mean, it doesn't have to be called anything, but it's just what I've been calling it's just like Handinmachine, or if there's some kind of Latin thing to make it sound really cool, like manu in machina, whatever. It just means, it's a concept I've been thinking about, which is basically the idea that because the internet essentially like reaches such a large scale, your ability to sort of, it's possible if you know how to work with that system, if you know how to like program or influence these systems and like manipulate this system, which is touching such a large scale, you can effectively extend your influence, you can extend some kind of control, and you kind of, it's like by a bionic extension, as if you're wearing like one of those like suits like in the Matrix, like a big armor suit, like a big robotic suit. You can kind of, with a small, you can just extend, in the modern day you can extend your influence to touch a very large scale with because of the existing scale that's there with the internet and all these network of computers that are out there. And it just seems tremendously powerful to me. So it's like, I wasn't trained in computer science or anything, but I'm just starting to realize the impact or the importance of being able to communicate and control a computer. More concrete example, it's like if you're trying to run a simulation or you're running some kind of program, you can, with just changing some numbers around, just like minimal effort on the part of us, like and literally energy wise, or like typing it in or thinking about what to do. If you knew what to do, you can change you just change the numbers to say like increase the size of the simulation, or you change the amount of parallelization, or you can deploy your program on a whole cluster of computers, or you can just ramp up the computational speed or the size of the amount, the simulation by just changing a parameter value. And that is something which has never been really possible before in human history, because with only a tiny amount of effort, you can now affect a really large change. And potentially, if you have a bunch of computers controlling a large system, it can be a really big change from just a small amount of work. And that's not natural. That's not something that has really happened before. If you want to build a house, if you want to build a civilization, everyone has got to pick up the bricks and start, building it up piece by piece. There's no way to suddenly just deploy and have it all be existing like that. So I think that's just a really interesting concept. It's like the fact that you can kind of exert that much power in a small movement, essentially. If I go back to the other topic of like what other kind of observations you can notice about entities that are funneling a lot of that energy towards them, a lot of times they are, if you're an individual, it's like in terms of looking at careers, it's like if you have a set of skills that seems to be very like in demand by the society at that time, combined with scarce, just like in how Bitcoin and all, in its finite supply is becoming more and more scarce over time, any of these assets, and it's seen as valuable, then that massively can drive up the price. So like it's like, why do people in certain kind of careers end up making a lot of money? Essentially, it's like you may have a skill that is very hard to come by, in a sense that it's like not that frequent in its incidence in the population, yet it is in really high demand at that time. So I'm predicting this for a bunch of things, but one of the things is like for people that know, people that understand, blockchain technology is so new. I think that it's really, really at a shortage of people who know how to manipulate that kind of system. And people are learning. It's like a community that's growing. It's interesting to me. But actually, that was a little bit more interesting than what I was saying at the moment. why would that guy was chasing his friend. Or her friend. No, the female is actually the brown. See, this one's in pursuit. See, hold up. If you can see that, that's the female in front. He seems to be, maybe they're just like a couple, I don't know. He's definitely like, going hand in hand with that one. The green is the male. You can't see it anymore. Just to review the main points of what I said, I just was trying to say that money is stored potential energy. People or entities that have a high rate of income tend to have three factors that all, if together, it can be really, really, really high rate of income. They are, first of all, that your work or your somehow touches a very large scale in which you kind of save people energy or benefit a lot of people. The work, the function of what they do is in high demand at the society at that point in time, and their work is rare. It's like not easy to come by at that point in time. So the three things: hard to come by, in high demand, and reaches a large scale. All of it together. I'm just kind of like just thought about like why do they have all that value funneled towards them? Another thing is that it takes a very long time to build up. It's never like instant. If you look at some of the people who have accumulated the most in the world, it always has taken many, many years to accumulate that amount. It's never just all of a sudden. Yeah, it's a lot of luck seems to be involved as well, because there's so much competition going on that it's hard to say that if you just do even all of those things that you're going to be, guaranteed that. But I think that is it for now if the battery hasn't run out. Some random park out here in Phoenix. People golfing, geese, doing whatever the heck it is they do at this time of day. Okay, it's time to sign off. Peace out.